Hey, welcome to this live stream. I'm Eleanor, and I'm going to talk us through the new program we're offering called Rightsizing with Design. I am going to give you a little overview here. So it's a very straightforward evening together, hopefully not going to take up a ton of your time. The plan is to end in about 30 minutes. Welcome if you're joining us in the recording, if you're joining us later. This is designed to be minimally interactive, but there will be a bunch of questions that I'm proposing that you can use as reflective tools. And, I have a lot of ways that you can get in touch with me, that you can interact with me, for lack of a better word. One of them is on my Substack, and I'm gonna give you more of this information as we go and add links, but you can always reach me at my Substack, at my website. Refugedesignworkshop.com is the website, and my Substack is Substack Refuge Design Workshop. So let's jump in. I'm going to introduce myself, then I'm going to share my screen and show you the online course. I'm going to show you behind the paywall what that looks like. And then I'm going to explain the process and the thinking behind it and how I got there. What a little bit the idea behind it, which is basically my mom. So I'm going to tell you about that. And then, my main thing is to explain how the design process works. So, and then it might seem obvious, but I'm going to try to also illustrate how it works and how it can benefit people who are trying to right size their home environment. So this is insights on interior design principles that help you with the management part, but also help you create more meaning in the process. It's a very holistic approach in that regard. And then after that, we'll get into some Q&A. So I am Eleanor. I am kind of a multi-hyphenate professional. I come from a background in the literary arts. I've been a designer, an interior designer for 13 years, and I have also a long time background in Zen Buddhism. And what brought me to interior design, first of all, let me just say, was a little bit randomized. I had never intended to become an interior designer. I have always been very creative, and I was a writer. I am a writer still. I, for a while, pursued a career in academia and also in writing and teaching writing and poetry and teaching poetry. And all of this actually came out of my initial foray into Zen Buddhism in my 20s. And the adoption of Zen Buddhism as my practice, as my life path, the main thing that I can share with you about that informs who I am and then informs this program, Rightsizing with Design, is that I try to offer things to the world and be a presence in the world that is beneficial. Kind of like the idea of being of service, which might be another way of thinking of it, depending on your spiritual leanings. So I think about how I can live well in the world and right with the world, and how I can be of benefit. And this program in particular is geared towards people who are in a transitional time of their life. So, there's definitely different needs that we have when we are empty nesters. There's different needs when we're planning to age in place. And then there's different needs when we are moving from a larger family home into a smaller apartment or a smaller home, whatever the configuration is. But the fact that there are different needs, that people have specific needs that are gonna be unique to their own body, mind, self. Um, doesn't mean we can't all use a very similar process. So, one thing I wanna say also is that I find that people, get easily overwhelmed by a couple things. They get easily overwhelmed by a home that needs a lot of upkeep, and that homes need a lot of upkeep. This is generally true. Homes need a lot of upkeep, and then there's also a lot of overwhelm when there's too much to do, and a transitional time, whether kids are leaving home or you're trying to manage your own downsizing project, these scenarios can both lead to a significant amount of work to do and overwhelm. And I saw a lot of overwhelmed houses, overwhelmed by the need for upkeep, when I came to Baltimore, Maryland, where I live now, and I started rehabbing vacant houses. And this was an intermediate stage in my path as an interior designer. I started out, first in school, I got a degree, and then I was employed at a green building design center where I worked with an architect, and we remodeled kitchens and baths and used, finishes and fixtures and materials that were sustainable and healthy and good for the home, good for humans, good for the environment. I came to Baltimore and I started rehabbing vacant houses, investing my own money and also with my dad. My dad and I pooled our money together, and I learned that that houses can fall a long way down, and it can start with a few repairs that don't get attended to, and then it can just balloon. Often, this is not because someone wants to neglect their house. I just wanna make that clear. Often it's because there's a budget issue and the house is too expensive or the repairs are too expensive to accomplish. So so what to do? If this is if this is happening for you, I'll just put this in here as a caveat. If this is happening for you now, the home has so many repairs, you can't actually afford to do them all. Um, you have the option of selling right now and probably realizing more money than you would at another time in the housing market. This is a very tight housing market. Houses are selling very high right now. So that is just to put a pin in that. We're not gonna go into that further. But, generally, my approach, and I'm gonna bring this up again, is that you tackle the one thing that's easiest. You start there, do the easiest repair that you can. Start there, get that done, and then move on to the next. The idea of home improvement, it can be scaled down, and I think that that can be a really helpful idea to remember when you are in a transitional time and when you feel overwhelmed by the amount of work that needs to be done. Okay, that was a really meandering way to introduce myself, but yeah, I think that that gives you a little sense of my background, and I'm going to jump forward now. Um, So, if you would like to reflect on your own, or if you would like to drop a comment in the chat, you can add here or think through what are the problems you are currently experiencing with your home environment. And so, although I mentioned a moment ago that some homes need repairs and upgrades, what I'm more interested in now is if you are personally having some issues around the home, and I'll give you some for instances. Um, and here we go. I'm going to tell you about my mom. So my mom is now widowed. My dad passed away 4 years ago, and she finds herself with a home that's more than she needs, and the amount of stuff in there, she doesn't live in a very cluttered home. She's a pretty fastidious, tidy person. But if for her, and this sort of runs in the family, the fact that there's a lot of things in there. There's sofas, there's just little coffee tables, there's all the little picture frames, there's the rugs, there's just the things that go into making a house. That is creating a burden on her mind. And I think it has to do with she's concerned about where she's going to put it all when she wants to move out or when she wants to sell her home. The idea of having to do that process of of dispersing the all the belongings is a complicated process. There's no easy fix, and so then flood, mind overwhelm. So the clutter, the burden of having excess belongings or just having belongings that you don't feel you need anymore, that can be a problem that is being currently experienced in the home environment. Um, there's also, I'll just mention, like, 'cause if this isn't resonating for you, I'll just say that I think it might be also a family trait or a cultural trait. Because my aunt and my mom share this, but my uncle doesn't. He's in the same family, but the 2 women in the family still they feel like they have to, come to the end of their life and leave no trace. They don't wanna leave anything behind that someone else is gonna have to take care of for them. It would almost, like, be that bad manners. So that's part of, I think, the mindset. Another problem sometimes people feel in their home environment is that it's just a lot of extra cost. It's like, 'cause if it's a larger square feet, if you imagine a home with larger square feet, you have to also imagine a larger cost. It's just gonna cost more to repair things, to replace things, the bigger the house. It's harder to clean. It's harder to just maintain. There's more effort involved, there's more cost involved. It's easier to maintain a smaller place. It's easier to maintain a one-bedroom apartment. It's easier also to maintain a clutter-free space. If you can imagine being able to get all the way around a sofa, with your broom or your mop, then and how much easier that is to clean the floor that way. That's what I'm talking about. When there's just a lot of tables and chairs, and there's just a lot of little rugs or a pile of books. I mean, this is describing how I live. It's harder to clean. I don't always get under everything. And so a clutter-free space is also easier on the mind. It does. It makes us feel lighter. Our environment, our home environment affects us from the colors on the wall to the textures on our furnishings, to the lighting, to the amount of stuff, to the mess. All of this affects our mind. So when we have less clutter and less excess, we feel lighter. This last example I have about a problem you might be experiencing in your home environment has to do with concerned family members. I don't know if you have this, but sometimes people have a concerned family member. They would like for you to move closer to them. They would like for you to move out of the family home. So, this is something also that can be addressed. You take the steps to have an intentional process, to create a plan, to have an intentional process of reducing the clutter in your home, or what, which I should also mention can be risky in terms of falls. If this is a concern that there's too much stuff and you're going to fall over things, this is some a loved one is expressing that concern. Taking a step like enrolling in right sizing with design, making a plan, executing it is going to put those family members at ease. Even just taking the first step, they're going to back off. All right. So this is another point of reflection. If you want, you can pause the video here. If you're watching the recording, you can jot this down if it's helpful. If you would like to add this to the chat, you can also share your thoughts there. The inquiry I offer is, to comment or to write down if your home is holding you back. Is there something if your home is holding you back from enjoying your life, what is that like? Can you describe that? Can you name the specifics? Is there something that you would if your home was not holding you back, what would you do? This is a question that asks you to imagine the home that's easier to manage and imagine your life that's easier to manage, that's that costs less, that's less of a burden, that has less weight. If the problem in your home is that there's just too much and you're overwhelmed and you can't imagine an alternative because of that overwhelm, this is a great time to just pause and try to picture the other end of this. Somehow, let's imagine that there's a magic wand, boop, and it's all taken care of. The whole thing is just suddenly taken care of. The clutter's gone, it's been taken care of in a responsible way, and they didn't take away the things that you wanted to keep. Those are somehow also magically maintained and kept and polished and put in just the right way. So, imagine now this and what that empowers you to do. Having more money, what does that enable you to do? Having more time, more freedom, that lighter feeling. But it's helpful to note, if this is the case, if having too much clutter is keeping you from envisioning this alternative, well, that's good to know. Also, if there's part of the problem might be that you're tired. I get tired. I get tired of managing it all, and there are days where I'm like, "Well, I'm supposed to be folding the laundry, but I am just too darn tired. I am not gonna fold the laundry right now." So it doesn't get folded. And I get caught up eventually, but there are times where I feel like I do fall behind. So if you're too tired, this is may also be an indicator that, the problem of having too much stuff, the problem of having too big of a home, that's a burden, is it's holding you back from doing an adequate job in maintaining your life. So I've mentioned a couple times that a too large home is expensive to maintain, is expensive to keep up. So watch out a little bit. I don't want to be a scaremonger, but a fearmonger, but I do, and it is a good time to sell. And if you have too many repairs that your house needs, your house will also not realize its maximum value. Realtors are very, very particular, and when they see that there's a repair or an upgrade that needs to be made, then they will, first of all, pressure you to make that upgrade and repair. Second of all, reduce the price. So making sure your house is in good repair will make sure you have the maximum value when you're ready to sell. Okay. So I want to, before we get too far into this, I want to share my screen and show you right sizing with design. Getting there. Okay. Um, mm, mm, mm. So here we go. This is the opener. This is once you register and you're in, this is the opening. You get a welcome. Whether you're downsizing into a smaller home or want to make your life easier to manage, you come to the right place. And what does it mean to right size with design? It means utilizing the design process to uncover the best use of your space with exactly the right furnishings as simply as possible. And then you get into the lessons, and these lessons are there's 3 chapters. The 4th chapter is a closing and then a survey so I can get feedback. So the first chapter is just laying the foundation. I give you and they all are sort of laid out very similarly. You open it up and there's a video, and then in this chapter, I'm giving you the overview of the program and giving you some pointers and some heads up. And then you also I give a supplies list, which you then can find down here. Sometimes there's a link here, and you don't need a whole lot of supplies. You just need you need a pencil and you need some paper and you need some ruler, things like that, because you're going to make some very simple drawings. So when you're ready to move on, you can either scroll down and go next lesson. You can also tap next lesson up here, or you can use this handy tab that sort of scrolls up and down, and it's this sort of half circle here. And it also lays out all the chapters. So then you go if once you're done with all the foundational stuff, and this is for people who for whom a renovation is part of their right sizing journey, is to clarify your design intent. If you're doing a renovation, make sure you don't miss this. For everyone else and for everyone, you're going on to chapter 2. And this is this chapter where you work on your existing and your proposed drawings. An existing drawing is just to document the space, the measurements of the space. And so here we have a lesson on how to measure the space. And what I demonstrate, and you can sort of see the image here, is how to make a sketch of the room and then how to get those measurements. And then once you have that, you're ready to go on to the next chapter, which is drawing to scale. And we use graph paper here, and I show you how to scale your room so you have an accurate uh, you have an accurate representation of your space that is proportional. So the windows and the furnishings are proportionally represented in a drawing. And this helps when you're trying to plan your rearrangement, what you want it to be. And the way we do that is with schematic drawings. And this is just a screen grab of the schematic drawing process. So I show you how to do that as well. And in fact, here is I was testing out a layout for the office that I'm in, and you can actually see this corner of the desk behind me, and I'm sitting right over here, and there's like this kind of floor sofa situation behind me. If I lean this way, which you can see my dog. Oops, if I go this way, it's probably better. You can see there's my little dog. Okay, anyhow. So, and then once that happens, we go into the design development phase. So I think of this as the planning of the space existing. The chapter 2 is planning the space, getting the layout. And then chapter 3, design development, this is where we get into the style, the aesthetic, the color, and also the organizing, because it all works together. So in design concepts, this is a set of prompts that I give you. It's a guided journey to create your own design concept. And what you're seeing here is a sample that I created, imagining an interior that was inspired by a surreal garden. This is just something that was on my mind that day, and it seemed actually like a really good idea. So I might still continue to play with that. Having a design concept is really helpful when you're trying to create a space that is unique to you, but that also just speaks to who you are, where you are in your life. And I write about this a lot in my Substack. The idea of right sizing isn't, I'm just going to pause the screen share for a second. The reason I use the word right sizing as opposed to downsizing is because it's not everyone has to get rid of everything. And what we wanna do is kind of curate our belongings so that we have the things that matter the most. And they matter because they help us know who we are, who they help us remember our sense of self and our sense of identity. Transition is turbulent. And so having that anchor, that sense of self as an anchor that's also fluid, it's not to say that we're like gripping onto anything, but to have these touchstones, these reminders of what we like, where we've been, how we've gotten here, and then where we're going. This is kind of like things that help us on our journey. So that's a part of the design concept phase, helps you get that a little bit more clearly with some language, getting some language to be able to articulate it. And once you have a design concept, then the decision making, all this myriad decisions that you have to make starts to get a lot clearer and a lot easier because now you have your vision. Now you know what you're going for. Once you know what you're going for, that helps you let go of the things that you still kind of like, but they don't fit exactly. They don't quite do it. They don't make the cut. And that's a good thing. To have that clarity is really uplifting. People generally feel uplifted by this process. Having less makes people happier. The fewer burdens you have, especially in a transitional time, second half, third quarter part of your life is just so freeing, and I highly recommend it. I hear that a lot. Just gonna mention a couple more things about what's in right sizing with design an eye keeping an eye on the time. So there's the design concepts, and if you wanna use Surreal Garden, you sure can. Alright, and then, we get into color theory. I am very proud of my ability to teach color theory, and I get a lot of good feedback from people, continually, like, even after they finish my programs. I try to bring color theory into all my programs because it's a very accessible framework for thinking about color, and it builds confidence, and it gives you it empowers you to choose the colors that are gonna work best with your furnishings. Because yeah, it's about relationships. So if you have a certain set of colors in your furnishings, figuring out how a wall color relates to those furnishings is just gonna really chef's kiss, gonna make the whole thing work really well. Um, I do. I get good feedback on the color theory stuff that I teach. People actually continue to reach out to me even, a couple years later. I can't say too many years later because 'cause I've only been doing this for, 3 or I'm in my 4th year. Okay, so once you've done your let's see, we've done the foundation, we've done the room arrangement, we've done the floor plans, we've done design concept and color, and then we get into this really critical part. And this is where the nuts and bolts of organizing the minutia comes into play. And I give you the tested, tried and true systems that I use for big projects. You can use it for smaller projects too. It's not specific to the size, but the bigger the project, the more moving parts, the better the system needs to be. And this system really works. And so what it is it's a combination, and I'm just going to tell you because I don't want to I, I I don't want to complicate and make this program too much longer because it's in right sizing with design, but there's a roadmap, a process roadmap, and a spreadsheet, and I give you my templates and I explain how to use them. And the best thing about this, and I guess I don't need to. The best thing about this is that you then have a system that allows you to work in smaller time increments. You don't have to do it all like a marathon. You work a little bit at a time and you stop, you take a break, you rest. And the system is there. When you're ready to engage again with your process, you look at the roadmap, you look at your spreadsheet, and it tells you right where you left off so you can pick it up. And you don't have to try to remember, and you don't have to have post-it notes everywhere. To me, this has been the magic sauce on my interior design projects. When I work for a client, the service I bring, I feel good about the creativity that I bring. I know I have good ideas, but the management piece that I can also bring, that I'm really proud of. If they want to know what color grout goes in the tile that's going in the basement bar, I just look at my spreadsheet and I can tell them because I've kept it up to date. Because I have a good system. And this is what I want to pass on to people. If you're managing a move, if you're downsizing, if you're renovating, having a system that helps you track and organize and know your next steps and know what's been done and what hasn't been done is a game changer. It will mean things don't fall through the cracks. It will help you keep you from forgetting. You don't even have to think about remembering. It's just there. It's just there. You just check your system and it tells you what's happening. Okay, so I am going to try to wrap this up real quick now because we are at the 30-minute mark. When you are ready to explore this, you just go to refugedesignworkshop.com, and I'm going to put a link I'm going to post this on my YouTube here, this video recording, and I'm going to put a link below. And then other platforms where this recording appears, there will also be a link right nearby. My website again is refugedesignworkshop.com, and you can find Rightsizing with Design there, and it will just tell you everything you need to do once you're there. When you join Rightsizing with Design, you get all of this that I've shown you. You get this structured approach that takes you through these very specific steps to realize a completed project to get you the space that really serves your needs now. This is the way professionals do it. This is a tried, tested, and true system that designers and architects and project managers and contractors all use. It will reduce your overwhelm. It will reduce your stress. Anyone feeling burdened by clutter and excess belongings, this is your program. This is going to help you reduce. And it'll allow you to relax. It'll allow you to feel proud of your beautiful space. It'll allow you to feel lighter in your beautiful space, in your just right space. All right, I'm just gonna, so I had some loaded questions, pre-sent, what's the word? People sent me questions in advance, and I'm just gonna, so if you want to stick around for those questions, you're more than welcome. If you have things you've got to do, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate you taking the time. There is this one question at the top of the list really speaks to me, and I do want to take a moment to address that. So there's that. Okay, so now I'm seeing there's actually a couple. So the first question is, how does the design process, how does the design process address the emotional challenges of downsizing, such as, oh, hang on, here we go. Yeah, so the emotional challenges of downsizing. Do you have any advice for dealing with the the family heirlooms and sentimental items during the right-sizing process? And I didn't really touch on that, so I wanted to just address that here briefly. That again, this is why I don't you like the word downsizing really has a directive connotation, and right sizing, I like it because it's a little bit more the idea of it being more catered to who you are and what's right for you. So you might be feeling some stress about the idea of having to let go of things that you love, that somehow that's going to be forced upon you. And certainly there is a history of that that's happened to a lot of people. Maybe it's happened to people you know, or someone you loved, or your own parents. But it doesn't have to be that way. We For those of us who are lucky enough to stay in our home or, live independently, especially, it doesn't have to be that way. Um, Notice when you feel a strong yearning, a strong sense of loss. Notice what your body is telling you. For me, loss is around my heart, and when my dad passed away, it was like a clamp on my heart, and it lasted for a long time. And then there are times also where, I'm cleaning out my closet. I often use the Marie Kondo technique. If you don't know about that, you should look it up. Marie Kondo is a Japanese woman who coined this phrase and it's a technique for deciding what to keep and what to let go of, and of the clutter and excess in your house. Um, I use it for clothes, and she says, "Keep the things that spark joy." So, it took me a little while because I have too many clothes. I've had too many clothes. I don't have too many right now, but I've had too many clothes, and so there was a period of time where I needed to get rid of things. And so holding something up, there were some very clear moments. This is not going anywhere. This one, this shirt, this pair of pants, it sparks joy, makes me happy. I'm putting that in the keep pile. Other ones that were like, I'm not sure. I put it in an I'm not sure pile. There were some clear, like, don't need you anymore. Those were also clear. Does not spark joy. I don't want it. Doesn't fit, doesn't look good on me, not my color, whatever reason. The I'm not sure pile is a tough one. But I found myself later coming back to it after a good night's sleep or a little break and doing it again, and things got sorted again. There were a couple things from that pile that stayed. I was like, I'm not sure, so I'm gonna wait and hold on to it. Or it was like, I'm not sure, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and just let that go and just let that happen and see how that feels. Because I've have the things that I truly love. These things, they're staying with me. So we get that. We get to keep the things that are more meaningful to us. I have this one other piece of this story is that, my mom and my aunt have this in common, and I'm gesturing over here because my aunt lives across the street from me. But one of the things that my mom, she felt an urge to just get rid of everything. As the image I had was like, you go to a fancy restaurant and the waiter has this like table scraper to get the crumbs off the table. It's like she wanted a house scraper and just scrape it out and into the bin and let it be done. She just wanted it over with because she didn't want to deal with the emotions. She didn't want to deal with everything was gonna, she had to go through it all, and it was gonna be all, so much, so much. So, I think, that's an understandable, like, an understandable thing one would want to avoid. But this is why we take breaks, and we try not to do too much, and we try to pay attention to when we feel like we've done a lot and it's starting to feel really heavy. That's a good time to take a break. Go outside, look at the sky. This is one of the things my Zen teacher says, "Look at the sky. How can you be upset when you look at the sky?" Go outside, breathe some air, uh, pet your cat, pet your dog, read for a little bit, take a nap. Lie down, rest your head. I like to curl up. Sometimes I put my hands on my face. Find that very comforting. Taking a break this is why we don't want to do it all at once. So that we can take care of ourselves through the process. The way the design process specifically addresses these emotional challenges is by being there. Is this it's being just a structure, an armature, just a structure you can use to help you go from one step to the next step. And it's not gonna drive you, and it's not gonna hold you back, it's just there, and if you do it, and you do it in the right order, which is something I talk about in my welcome video, because I highly recommend you do it in the order that it's presented, because it works together into a kinda culmination, then then you're supported, you're held up. Armature, like the arms of a chair, holds you up. That's how. How do you help clients determine what their current needs for safety and well-being in their living space? Oh, how do you help clients determine what their current needs are for safety and well-being in their living space? I am not a professional occupational therapist. I am I am someone who has fallen in her own home though, so I can speak from my own experience. But, if this is definitely a conversation, get some advice from your doctor, get some advice from an occupational therapist if you need some guidance. If this is a question an adult child has of an aging parent, you have that conversation facilitated by a medical professional. An occupational therapist should be able to help you with that. But I can say that I've heard some things, and I also offer some more resources, within the program, Rightsizing with Design, about aging in place, some additional resources that come with the program. My own experience of falling in my own home, I've had 2 falls. Fortunately, I minimum injury. I landed on a hand on a carpeted surface. It felt bruised, but nothing broke. And I'm not that old, so I'm 52, so it's partly that I also have still really strong bones, and that happened. Why did that happen? Okay, I have learned that I need to keep the pathways, the walking ways of my home clear, because if I'm rushing around, I don't know how I did it, but I was rushing around, and there was a laundry basket in the middle of the floor, and I was coming down the stairs, and I turned the corner, and somehow then I tripped, and then my foot went into the laundry basket as I was trying to save myself from falling, and then I fell in a different way because my foot was in the laundry basket. That's when I hit my hand. So, I've ever since then, I took that very seriously. I don't leave things in the middle of the floor. I always keep the areas of walking pathways, traffic patterns, those areas stay clear of clutter, clear of any tripping hazard. The other tripping hazard I had was a yoga block in the middle of the floor. Again, keeping that out from the middle of the floor. That's my great tip. And I learned because I tripped over the yoga block and I went down. I think I landed on my hip on a carpeted surface. So I was very lucky. Okay, what kind of support or resources do you offer to participants during and after the program to help them stay on track with their right-sizing goals? This will be my last question, but I wanted to mention that in the program, I give you a link to set up one-on-one meetings with me if you want. This is optional. There's an extra cost. But you can set up meetings with me to talk through where you are. It's a great way to help you meet a deadline if you want. This program is designed to be done on your own. I encourage you to put it on your calendar, do a little every week. If you can manage doing it a couple times a week and putting it on your calendar and just making it part of your schedule. Give yourself an hour at each session. And that's how you get it done. And if it helps you to meet someone, then by all means, purchase a meeting with me to do that. The added value of that will not only, raise the stakes for you, psychologically speaking, but you will get feedback. You will get some very very direct feedback from me about your progress and where you are and what you need to be doing. And I can help you with your floor plans. I can give you, customized feedback so that it's, you know, m- if you're having some trouble figuring out what the right configuration is and getting the right size of things, I can help you with that. Absolutely. I can help you with color as well. And, if you need inspiration, I can also help you with that. Okay, so that's it from me. Go to my website, refugedesignworkshop.com, to enroll in Right Sizing with Design. You can also find me on Instagram, Refuge Design Workshop, or Facebook as well. I'm going to try to spend a little more time over here on YouTube, so keep an eye out here for additional videos. I would love for you to have ease and comfort in your home, especially if you're in a later life transition. This is our model now in the US, and this is how it's gotta be for a lot of us. It's gotta be this way for my folks, for my aunt and her partner, for my uncle and his wife. This is learning how to take care of yourself in your home at this time of your life is gonna be a really valuable skill, and, who knows, you might get to pass on that skill to your young one, your child, your adult child who probably doesn't listen to you anymore. Who knows? Maybe they do. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Get it done with a structured approach. Again, the structure is what is your friend. You reduce the overwhelm, reduce the stress, relax, and be proud of your beautiful home. Using right sizing with design, all of this is possible. I just know it is. That's the kind of believer I am in the design process. Thanks again for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day.